Hey, hello, thanks for clicking in. If you and I were here at the same time, I'd say it's good to see you, but it's good to see you. We'll just go with that. Hey, big news. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has just dropped. That's really exciting. I very much want to play the game. I played the first Kingdom Come Deliverance. That was one of my favorite games ever. I really enjoyed both the story. I enjoyed the fact that Henry was a useless piece of shit when he started to play. He couldn't do anything. From what I read, Kingdom Come 2 has kind of that same feel. The thing is, after a long history with buying games pre-order or right as they come out, I ended up spending a lot of time thinking, oh, I'll come back to this in 6 months. So even though Kingdom Come was coming out, I thought, nope, I'm not going to buy that on the day of release. Are you nuts? I should probably replay the first one. That'll give me, a month or so, and that'll give a chance to see if it's any good or if it just falls off the edge, that sort of thing. So, of course, it comes out. This is the first major game release I can even remember where people are like, oh, this is really good. Oh, they did such a good job. I'm like, really? Okay, so it didn't like crash and fail to boot, and the graphics were not, screwed up, and the game was actually complete, and they weren't apologizing at the same time they were releasing a piece of shit. So I'm like, oh crap. Well, I guess I better start Kingdom Come 1 again because I really do want to play it again. I remember the game kind of, but I don't really remember. And so I'm thinking, well, perfect. I'll just play it over again, kind of get my head in, and then I'll come back and buy number two, and we'll see what that turns out to be like. Anyway, so that's for the future. For right now, I actually want to go backwards in time. I want to talk a little bit about gaming history. So we're going to stay on the same subject, but I want to talk about not the history of video games in the United States. Nah. I want to talk just a little bit about what I have experienced, what my gaming history is like. Um, I've been thinking about that a lot lately. And it's just so much has changed and so many things have happened in the last 285 years that I just I've been thinking about it a lot. The first computer game ever wasn't on a Nintendo. Those hadn't even been thought of, much less invented. That would have been science fiction back in the early 1970s. There were computer games, and they came around before I did. When I was born, they were actually putting their finishing touches on the first ever true video game with that actually had a screen. It wasn't really a screen, it was an oscilloscope, and they had a little line and a little wedge driving around, and you could flip a switch and that would fire weapons at either the line or the wedge to see if it could kill the opponent. So they were in the middle of working on that and getting that put together. I was busy almost getting conceived, so that predates me by a little bit. But my first encounter with any kind of a computer game for me was in seventh grade. It was 11, 12, and the first game I ever played was on one of these. Yes, this is a teletype, and at the time it was really magical. Connected to a mainframe in another office somewhere. It was just a terminal. It could output a whopping 10 characters per second, which you'd think, wow, you pretty much couldn't do anything on that. And yeah, that was almost correct. First game I ever played, it was some computer game. It's like a card game or something. This was in seventh grade. It was junior high school. I had just moved to California. I was a total fish out of water, didn't know anybody. Somebody said, you should probably go in the computer lab, which was just a room in the back of a storage room where these 8 or 9 terminals were set up. Lady at the front, she's like, oh yeah, no, you should totally come in and check this out. Here's a book. This book has 20 different computer games written in a language called BASIC. And do you know how to program? I was like, no. She's like, well, but see what you can make of this. So I took the book home and I learned how to program. It took me about 2 weeks to figure out what the hell was going on just by reading the code. It wasn't like learn to program in BASIC. It was just like, here's the source code for 20 really simple games, although they didn't really seem simple at the time. Went back to school. painstakingly typed in using those keys, and didn't really factor in that there would be debugging involved. So it took a while. It wasn't like you had an integrated debugger or anything like that where you just say, oh yeah, here's the problem. So I remember it took a while, but I got it to work, and that was so fucking exciting. It was just incredible. I felt like I was an alchemist or a wizard or something. It was just amazing. After a while, I discovered that there actually were a few games on the computer, and one of them, which turned out to be my holy grail, oh my God, for a 12-year-old kid, this was in a primitive society where we still used flint hammers, to make our tree structures. This was really cool. Here it is. This is a picture of Star Trek on a teletype. And yes, it would have to print that map out. You say, show me the map, and ding, 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 and it would print out this little tiny thing. As tedious as that sounds, it was actually really fun. So this was my world for about a year or so, typing in little games, playing other little games. I remember the year after that, I didn't have access to the teletype, or it was that summer, something like that. I actually tricked my dad into renting a teletype for me at home with a little cradle, so I could plunk the phone. I think they must have 10 characters per second on the teletype. It was probably 10 bytes per second in terms of the transfer rate. It really, really, really slow. But again, it was really magical, and it got me through another summer. So that was the major beginning. And that was also the last time for a while that I was actually involved in a game that I had actually something to do with, whether it was programming or just, running on a computer, designing and that kind of thing. So that was my start. But see, that was a computer game. That wasn't a video game. There was no screen. So to get to the first video game, I've got to go forward about another 2 years. There was a video arcade that was in a mall that was semi kind of close to the house that I was living in at the time. And so I remember sneaking over there. And the first video game I played, I swear it was Duck Hunt, but that can't be, because the only Duck Hunt that's out there is a Nintendo video game that came out right around 1980, and I was playing a really cheesy little pixelated Duck Hunt. It didn't have a dog or any of the other stuff. I think it might have been Quack, but that didn't sound right either. So I don't know what it was. So that was the first video game that I ever played. It cost me a quarter. And that was kind of a lot of money for me at that age. And so I didn't do video games very often, but I would sneak in there. I wasn't really sure if it was okay at home with, parental folks, but I didn't ask, because if you're not sure, don't go find out, right? There you go, kids. Yeah, there, there's some wisdom for you. Yeah, old Grandpa Boomer, he says, yeah, it's okay, do whatever you want. And I did play Pong too, and I didn't play it in an arcade, and I did not play it on one like the Activision or Atari consoles that came out, or I saw it demonstrated. I can't remember which one, but it was when I was an early teenager. And I thought that was just fascinating too, that you could actually play against somebody else. And that launched a long career of, with a few exceptions, not playing with other people. So for a while, the next few years, it was mostly just arcade play. This will come as a big surprise if you know me, but for some reason, I always gravitated to the weird games. So everybody is playing Joust, or the one where the ship goes back and forth and shoots at things, and coming in from the sides. And I was playing a game called Chicken Shift, and I swear, look this up. I actually haven't Googled it, but I remember the game vividly. Chicken Shift. It was a game where chickens would lay eggs that would come down a pipe, and your job was to flip pipes around to make it so that the eggs would drop out the bottom or whatever. And that was a lot more fun than trying to defeat some dragon with some video Disney thing. And by then, people were starting to get consoles in their home. Atari was a big thing for quite a while. And there were some video games for that. I remember there was one with a castle, which was basically just a big pink blob, and there was a little square, and you would move the square around, from place to place. I never could get interested in that. There's a whole giant part of the population that has loved consoles. They grew up with them, they cut their teeth on them, they continue to play them, and I just never got it. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. We went from teletype to video games in the mall. And now, in my senior year in high school, I think it was, I tricked my dad again. And I tricked him into getting me one of these. This, compared to the teletype and everything else I had ever done, this was a monster. This thing not only could do better than 10 characters per second, this thing had a screen, for one thing. It had basic language inside, so you could do your own programming on the computer. It had, honest to God, a cassette player that was used for data storage. Hey kids, a cassette was a little box of plastic about like this, and it had a spool of tape in it, and the tape would wind around and around and pass these little playback and record heads, and so you could play music with it. And they also figured out for a very short while you could store computer data on it. The more you know. Yeah, anyway, 8K of RAM. That's 8 kilobytes, not megabytes, not terabytes, kilobytes. And that 8K was actually divided up between the screen and general RAM for holding programs. But it was pretty amazing what you could do. And because it had basic, by this time as a high school student, I was doing a little bit more with programming. Still nothing serious, mostly just doing weird ass shit with the graphical characters and playing around a little bit. Had a friend of mine in high school. Hey, Mike, if you're out there, I hope you're doing really well. But he and I hung out a lot together, and he was deep into assembler, and so he actually wrote a version of Space Invaders to play on that tiny little screen, and he wrote it in assembler, and that was really cool. And I was super impressed by that. I thought that was really awesome. So that was kind of it for the home games. I wasn't really a console person, so I kind of just continued playing arcade games, and had to get jobs that would pay enough that I could take quarters down there and ruin my financial future by playing video games in an arcade. And then one day it all changed. This would have been in 84, I think, 1984, is when I finally got a game machine at home that I could use. And it was this giant beast here. This was the original Macintosh. With the Macintosh, games started to arrive. So I started Googling a list. I'll leave a link to the list that I found. It was just like the 10 coolest games of Macintosh. You go to Wikipedia, you find thousands. But the 10 favorite ones. And I was really surprised because I start reading, oh my God, that one, Dark Castle, Prince of Persia, Colony. I remember the Colony. This was so cool. So many of the things that came later had the echoes back to this generation of games. I saw just the other day that Bungie's working on Marathon. I'm like, Marathon? I played that game 200 years ago. Marathon, the original one, as primitive as it was, I remember that game was really cool and really special because it was the first video game I had ever played that had actual ambient sounds. So you would walk past this little river or cross a bridge and you would hear the sound of water running. And I know this is like I banged two stones together and I got sparks, and then I had fire. I know what it sounds like, but this was really cool because it just really hadn't been done. The whole shooter genre of games, the building blocks were still being made. It was really cool, and that's part of what makes me so fascinated as I look back on all this stuff. Yes, we are continuing to innovate in 2025 and beyond. We're even doing some shit that I wish we wouldn't, like, the whole microtransaction thing. But so much of the stuff that was being done back then, there was nothing to build on. People were coming up with cool new ideas out of their head. Oh yeah, we could make this brand new thing. We could make that brand new thing. So it was really interesting at the time. And looking back on it, this is one of the few times I actually have a lot of respect for the human race. There were some really, really creative, clever, driven people back then, much like there are today. But But it was with Macintosh where I finally had my first addiction response to computer games. I'm not sure if I should admit that. I'm going to admit it. Back in the 80s, working for this mainframe computer company, I'd had my Mac for maybe a year or so. And my boss was talking to somebody that he was working with in this company, and they had been talking about, oh my God, this game is so incredible. And I'm like, really? Tell me. So I asked him, I'm going, so what is this game? He says, I'm not telling you. I go, why? He says, because you're going to overreact to it and then you're going to call in sick and you're already behind enough on your project. So no, I'm not going to tell you what this is. So I whined and dug around a little bit. And finally he's like, fine, it's a game. It's called Strategic Conquest. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, whatever. It sounds like a nice strategy game or whatever. So I went out that afternoon and I bought it on the way home from work. I didn't call in sick for a day. I called in sick for 2 days to get to the weekend so I could keep playing. I'm sorry, man. Yeah. Anyway, so this game, it was a tile game. There was a game company called Avalon Hill. They made I don't know, maybe they're still around. They made desktop physical games that with these little tiles, and the tile would have, this is a tank and it has a 8 defense and 8 offense, and you would stack your little tiles and move them around this board and stuff. So Strategic Conquest was like that. It had a hidden map that was generated different and fresh for every game, and it had difficulty settings, so you could have a very simple opponent, or you could decide to have an opponent that was really really good. It was just engaging. It would take you anywhere from 1 to 4 hours to complete a game usually, and I was just hooked. I could not get enough of this game. I lent it to my brother because he wanted to try it out. He's a few years older than I am, and he disappeared. This continues for years. I played Macintosh games. I guess if I wanted to, I could go back and try to list all of the ones, but it's not worth it. It was so many different ones. Some of them I wouldn't even remember if I saw them again. Some of them were groundbreaking and really incredible. There were a couple of other games that I want to mention that were really revolutionary for me, and in some ways had a pretty big effect on what turned out to be the rest of my life. I had to switch from Macintosh to PC in the 1990s because I had started a new company and the software that I needed in order to run the business was not available on Macintosh. So I had to switch platforms to the PC. I did discover there were some pretty good games on PC as well. Wing Commander, I can fly spaceships. This was so cool. One of the two games was Team Fortress Classic, because that was the first time I had ever played a game on a computer at home where I was actually interacting with other people. And this was really fun. So these are people. And this little skinny guy that I just blew his head off, that was a person who is now angry with me. I like this. This is really fun. And I played a lot, actually, and I became slightly above average. This was back in the days when I actually had a little bit of reaction time. That's really gone now. If you're familiar with Team Fortress Classic, I always played the heavy weapons guy because that was what I really enjoyed doing. I named myself Snorlax, which, if you're Pokemon person, that makes a lot of sense. Though I was never like super awesome, elite, commanding everyone else in the game. I did get good enough that once in a while someone would accuse me of cheating. And I always found that to be a real honor. Genuinely, if someone, because I never cheat in online games because it's stupid. That's like paying someone to tell you you're wonderful, and then you believe it. Here's $100. Tell me how good looking I am. Oh, I guess I'm so good looking. I've never been that kind of person. To be able to sit there and go, this asshole, he's going to come down the ramp next time. Here, let me cue a grenade. 3, 2, 1, yeah. There. Oh, I got you again. You fucking cheater, you wall. Look, I'm like, nah, man, you're just really obvious. So that was fun. Joined a clan. We had some matches. It was really enjoyable. And then while that was going on, somebody in that community had said something about, I'm playing this new incredible adventure game. And I'm like, really? Do tell. Yeah, it's this thing. It's like EverQuest. it's like Team Fortress, except it's not guns, it's fantasy, and you're playing with other people there also. And I'm thinking, wow, so it's like Baldur's Gate, the original one. I think I have my timeline right. I remember Baldur's Gate kind of, the very first one. I played the first one, didn't quite finish the second one, and the third one I have heard is absolutely effing fun, fantastic, and I need to play that, and I promise I will. I promise I will. First one, all that I really remember, other than it was a D&D style game, is that there's this poor guy named Nuber, and I remember him, and he followed me everywhere to the point where I killed him, and I have never forgiven myself for killing him. I'm sorry, Nuber. I know you. Yeah. Anyway, I need a minute. Okay, I'm up. Okay, so I'll start playing EverQuest, and so I loaded the game down, bought a subscription, logged in, and I'm of two minds when it comes to this game because in the one sense it is so primitive, and I have gone back to try it again here and there, um, and it's painful because the graphics are primitive and the world has moved on from this exact snapshot of the genre. But at the time, it is so magical. You go out and you're like you talk to this elf and you say, "Yes, I will take the mail to Kelethin." I have no idea what Kelethin is, where it is, what the hell I'm doing here, what is mail? I don't know. But he told me to do this thing. And so I walk out of the castle and there's this flappy bat. And it takes me 2.5 to 3 hours to kill this goddamn bat. And yet it was really exciting. I killed a bat. And then um, I'm working on another bat, and somebody comes up and they start killing it too. And I'm looking at them going, "You're a person. You're a real person in the game." And then, we give a thumbs up and say, "Hey, thank you." And then we go our separate ways. And I'm like, no way. Is this really possible? You can actually group up. This isn't just, idle PvP against people. This is actually cooperative play where you can develop your characters together. And then you discover the world is enormous. It's not just a two fort where you're going back and forth across the same, this same little bridge. There's forests and deserts and oceans, and it's all delightfully tedious where, oh, I need to go over the ocean to this other city called Freeport, and I'm not sure what that means, but I'm going to go, where's the boat? And so then you sit around. 15 minutes later, the boat arrives, and you're like, seriously? And you get on the boat, and you sail, and you sail, and you sail, and you sail. So just the magnitude, the size of it was utterly incredible. The variety of things to do. Again, it's all new. This is before World of Warcraft came out. This is yeah, there was Ultima and some other stuff. I never played that, so I don't know. But it was really something else. And then also just in passing, I met some lady from Norway, and here I am. A long time has gone by since those days. It's just a good thing. And I think that was for me kind of the beginning of the end. For a while, I was really into, yeah, I got to group up, got to hang out with these online friends, that kind of thing. After EverQuest 1 came EverQuest 2, and we played that. My wife and I and family, we played that a lot for a long time. But that was when it started to change. And that's when all of a sudden people, they just weren't as nice as they used to be. And then it would get really weird and competitive, and then it's just a lot of boasting and a lot of bad, a lot of BS talk on channels and screaming at each other about stuff. And I just it took a really long time, but I finally got to the point where I'm just like, I don't want to play with people anymore. I'm so tired of people. I know it sounds weird, but that's just where I was. Am so ever since then, I've just more and more been Diablo 4. Yeah, hey, that's a lot of fun. Yeah, you want to group up and do stuff? No, no, not really. Thanks though. Not been my thing. So ever since then, I've been pretty much in full on single player mode. If there's a multiplayer mode, if that's the whole purpose of the game, I just don't play it anymore. And if that's just kind of a sideline thing, I've been playing No Man's Sky again lately, and I hear that there's other humans that are involved, and I don't really have any desire to go looking for them. I guess if I ran into one on a planet somewhere, I'd just be like, okay, but it isn't something that really pulls me in anymore. And along with the emotional thing too, nowadays I can't I there's no way that I could be playing Valorant or Overwatch or Fortnite or that kind of thing. My reaction time is shot in my 60s. Come on, maybe somebody has still got a hair trigger, but at that age, but. Not me. It's been way too long since then. So I focus on other things. I'll mention one more, and then I'm going to give just a really quick brain dump with of different things that are there today, and then I'll let you go. But there was one other game that I just thought about it that had a really really big impact on me, and that was Fallout 3. Similar thing. I didn't know what to expect. I was playing drums in a drum corps way back when, and one of the guys who was in that group, he came up to me and he says, "You do video games, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." See, he just hands me this CD from that he had with him. He's like, "Yeah, I thought you did. Take this thing." It was Fallout 3, and I'm like, "Are you serious?" And this was at a time when I had like not no money, but less than no money. And so there was no way that I was buying new games. And so for me, this was like, golden. And so I was like, oh my God, this is so exciting. So I take it home and I put it in, and we boot up inside the vault, and we're running around, and there's a big roach, and then there's a birthday party, and I'm like, yeah, this is really cool. And then we have to escape, and it's real chaos, and I open the vault door, and then it says, "Are you sure you want to go out?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I don't know what this game is about, but it's apparently about me shooting roaches with a BB gun." And I had no idea what was coming. And you get this blinding light as you come out from the vault, and it slowly clears away. And there's this massive wasteland, the wreckage of humanity that we all are afraid of, and at the same time are hoping to help bring about. And it's just all stretched in front of me, and there's ruined tricycles and broken cars and devastated houses, and I just almost cried. I was like, oh, I was speechless. Yeah, oh, it's just a dumb video game. Not right then, it wasn't. And going around and seeing all of the wasteland stuff that was out there was just incredible. And then Fallout 4 came along, and I bought that one, and I have played Fallout 4. I don't even know how many times. It's kind of my go back to game where I play a bunch of stuff and then I can't think of anything I really want to play. And I'm like, you know what? Sim Settlements in Fallout 4. I think I'll start that one up again. And so then I start that one up again. But Fallout 4 was very similar in terms of it scratched the itch. It's like, yeah, good, more of this, more of the devastation and more of the moral quandary and that kind of thing. Some people are like, no, we just murder death claws. And for me, I'm like, oh my God, a teddy bear. It hit something inside my head. So that was really good. And then, Fallout 76. I'm like, oh, it's got other people. Well, it's Fallout though. I give Todd one more chance. Maybe I'll give him a chance. Maybe this will be okay. Get out there. I'm like, Oh, Jesus, this is terrible. It's just not for me. I know there's a lot of people who play it finally now that it works, and they've put in some of the things that like any NPCs at all. Um, so great. I once in a blue moon, I think, I don't know, maybe I should try that, and then I'm like, I don't know, maybe I should cut my hair or something. It's just not interesting. Now, anyway, I guess that brings us pretty much back to the present. Still playing games, still really engaged and interested. I probably won't be alive long enough to see Elder Scrolls 6. That's, I guess, to 2067 now that they're thinking about getting that out. Honestly, right now, I'm looking for a reason to pick up new games because I don't know. I feel like sometimes it's weird, but I feel like I need a reason to start a new game, and that's kind of one of the reasons I'm starting to look at YouTube again. Maybe if somebody hangs out with me while I play or something, then that'll be a good thing. I don't know what I'm talking about, but we'll see how that goes. I made a list of the things that I've been interested in lately and the things that I've been playing. I'm very much into story games, so I like Witcher, Kingdom Come, the Mass Effect stories were really, really good. I really enjoy, well, I'm sorry, let me say this again. The first two Mass Effect stories were really, really good. And I really enjoyed them. I thought they were really well done. I really enjoyed Borderlands when it came out. I enjoyed Cyberpunk of all things, although I waited, I think, 8 months before I tried Cyberpunk. I was just like, it's such a mess. That was one of those games where I was like, nah, never mind. You guys let me know when it's working. I played No Man's Sky when it came out, maybe a month after it came out, because people were just tearing it to shreds, and I was thinking, it doesn't seem like it's that bad. And so I played it, and I was like, well, I know why people are angry, but it's a pretty okay game. I played it for a while, put it down, came back about 3 or 4 years later when they had made a bunch of upgrades, and played it some more. And yeah, oh wow, it's even better than it was. And I just picked it up again a month or two ago, or about a month ago, I guess. And like, wow, that's stuff you really put in here. Um, Although even after all this time, I'm still, I have this funny things that I react to. So I get into No Man's Sky, and everybody's like, yeah, we build bases, we're going on these expeditions, and I'm standing on the edge of a cliff going, I'm alone. There's nobody here. The only the only thing that's talking to me is this thing that everybody says is lying to me, and it's just a broken universe creator, so I don't even know why I'm here. Yeah, but I like story games, BioShock, the a whole bunch of things that I used to play. I like quirky games too. Um, Portal and Portal 2. Portal 2, I think that's on my very short list of best games ever made since creation. Not because it was thrilling to the end, but it was really, really well written. The puzzles were fun. The storyline was fun. A combination of tongue in cheek, look the other way, I'm going to slap you. So I thought that was really well done. Stanley Parable, RimWorld, Factorio, all these weird little things. But here we are, 2025. Good games coming out already. Hopefully there's more on the way. And if you're still here, I apologize for taking so damn long. But if you're still here, you have my heart. Thank you so much for listening. If you have anything to add in comments, please feel free to do so. I love to hear what other people are thinking, especially on this subject. Thanks again for listening. Let's do this again sometime. I'll try to come back a little sooner for the next video.